Thank you.
Former police chief George Gascon was sworn in last night as San Francisco's district attorney. He was appointed a year ago when Kamala Harris was elected state attorney general. He won the job in the November election, making him the first Latino to hold that office. I spoke with him earlier. George Gascon, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure.
I want to begin with some crime statistics that came out this week. In San Francisco, the crime rate has been historically low, 50 murders, I believe, in 2011. That's down as it has been for the last several years. And yet down the road in San Jose, the number of murders almost doubled. Over in Oakland, we've seen a rise in the number of murders. What makes the difference from one community to another when it comes to particularly violent crime?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a variety of factors. You know, San Francisco had very high murder rates until 2008. Frankly, while most major cities of similar demographics around the country were going down, San Francisco was not. 2009 was sort of the turnaround year. That year, we brought it down to 45. It was a historic low. Then 2010 was 50, and 2011 50.
And you were the police chief at that time.
For most 2 years, yeah, exactly, for the 2 years, the 09 and 2010. You know, there's a variety of things. I think that the community involvement is very critical to the success of good policing. I think that having a good supportive mayor and city government, and then having good policing, you know, having officers and having a department that understands their role, that focuses where the violence is, that understands who's committing the crimes, and then puts the attention necessary in those places, can go a long way.
Now, your department, like all law enforcement, is having to do more with less. There are budget cuts, and I'm sure you're facing another round of those in this coming budget year. So you have to be more efficient. You have to do things that are cost effective. So how do you evaluate that?
Right. Well, you know, I mean, the state is going through a complete reformation of the criminal justice system. If we look back at the last year's or the current year's budget with AB 109 and realignment, it began to move a lot of the what used to be the responsibility of the state onto the counties, and consequently it started to impact the way that we do business. Now, our own county obviously is having their own cutbacks. You know, every department's been asked to provide further reductions, and you know, there is actually some opportunities here. It's not all bad.
Like what?
Well, I think, you know, it forces us to be smarter about the way that we do business. In our case, frankly, we're looking in a lot of different ways in how to reduce the number of cases that are tried. So one of the things that I started to do at the beginning of my administration in 2011, when I was appointed, was to create this concept of neighborhood courts and neighborhood prosecutors. We're already in 4 stations throughout the city, and the goal is by the end of this year we'll be in every station. What we're doing is we're taking a lot of the low-level misdemeanor cases that often languish at the Hall of Justice waiting to be tried, and we're moving them to neighborhood courts. Neighborhood courts is a restorative justice model. You have community mediators that, quite frankly, are better equipped to understand what's important to their community, and we can do things very quickly. And get a resolution for everyone.
Yeah, you mentioned realignment, and I think 2012 is going to be a big year for criminal justice issues. On the ballot, if you look ahead to November, we may have a repeal of the death penalty. We may have another ballot measure to reform 3 strikes so that the 3rd strike has to be a violent one. Where do you stand on those things? Because crime advocates tough on crime advocates say that that's one of the reasons the crime rate is so low, is that we've had these tough measures. Do you agree with that?
No, I completely disagree. I think if you compare our crime rates to that of other states that do not necessarily have the same legislative structures, for instance, 3 strikes. You know, New York does not have 3 strikes, and yet the state of New York has seen larger crime drops in the last 10 years or so that we have seen in California. I believe that 3 strikes needs to be reformed. I'm a strong supporter of the new initiative that is coming up. In fact, I speak in favor of it and will continue to do so. I think that these are the type of re-engineering that is necessary in order to lower the cost of our criminal justice system, and it will not impact public safety.
What about the death penalty? Would you support repealing it?
You know, I'm against the death penalty.
Is that a change?
It is not a change. I think often during the campaign, I think that my position on the death penalty was somewhat mischaracterized. It is the law today. And as a district attorney, I'm the chief law enforcement officer. And I don't believe that I should simply dismiss what the law says that we should do. Having said that, I made it very clear during the campaign that I would not be seeking the death penalty in San Francisco. I frankly believe that given the totality of the circumstances surrounding the death penalty, the cost that it takes to implement the death penalty, the fact that it has such a disparate impact in so many people, and the fact that it's irreversible, I believe that we would be much better off repealing the death penalty.
So you will support that.
Yes.
We're getting to the end, but I want to ask you a question. You were born in Cuba. You came to the U.S. when you were 12 or 13 years old, dropped out of high school in Los Angeles. What is that? How does that color the way you look at the issues of crime and punishment?
Well, I think hugely. First of all, coming from a country where the state, and it was a police state, right? Everything is controlled by the government. I really learned to appreciate the fact that we have a system here of law, due process. Then having been raised, quite frankly, in a very rough, lower socioeconomic neighborhood, I got to appreciate the difference between good policing and bad policing, and I'm bringing that to the table today.
All right. Well, George Gascon, Happy New Year. Thanks so much, and good luck in your, not new job exactly, but now you've got it, you've earned it.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure.